Hello, my name is Jisa, and that's Reggie, and we're reading Master Dōgen Shōbōgenzō, and we're on chapter 33, Kannon, Avalokiteśvara, paragraph 73. Dōgen's words, I understand, are not saying that I understand the words of Dōgen. In speaking of the hands and eyes that use the ineffable and in causing them to express the truth, Dōgen says, I understand. This might be freedom in using this place and might be freedom in having to get into today. Dōgen's words, how do you understand, are another way of saying, I understand. Although they do not get in the way of Ungo's expression, I understand, Dōgen has his own words, which are, how do you understand? This common state of Dōgen and Dōgen is already, I understand, you understand. Could it be other than eyes understand, hands understand? Is it understanding that has been realized, or is it understanding that has not been realized yet? The understanding described by I understand is the I itself. At the same time, we should consider its existence as you in how do you understand? With respect to the words of Dōgen, which have been manifested in the present, that the whole body is hands and eyes, there are very many canons who, when orating upon reaching back with a hand in the night to grope for a pillow, study that Dōgen has said that the whole body is the same as hands and eyes. These canons, though they are canons who have not yet expressed themselves. When Dōgen says the whole body is hands and eyes, he is not saying that hands and eyes are a body which is everywhere. Being everywhere is the whole world, but the very moment of the body hands and body eyes cannot be pervaded by being everywhere. Even if there is, in the body hands and body eyes, the virtue of being everywhere, they cannot be hands and eyes that would rob from a street market. At the same time, the virtue of hands and eyes should not be seeing, practicing, or preaching that recognizes rightness. Hands and eyes have already been described as limitlessly abundant. They are beyond thousands, beyond 10,000s, beyond 84,000s, and beyond countlessness and limitlessness. It is not only the whole body as hands and eyes which is like this. Saving the living and preaching the Dharma may be like this, and the radiance of national lands may be like this. Therefore, Dōgen's expression may be the whole body as hands and eyes. We should learn in practice that he does not make hands and eyes into the whole body. Though we use the whole body as hands and eyes, though we make it into our movements and demeanors, active and passive, we must not disturb it. Dōgen says, your words are nicely spoken. At the same time, your expression of the truth is just 80 or 90% of realization. The point here is that expression of the truth is speaking to a nicety. Speaking to a nicety means hitting the target by speaking, clearly manifesting something by speaking, and leaving nothing unexpressed. When what has hitherto been unexpressed is finally expressed so that nothing remains that words might express, the expression of the truth is just 80 or 90% of realization. Even if study of this point is realized 100%, if the power to speak has not been perfected, that is not mastery of the state. An expression of the truth is 80 or 90% of realization. At the same time, the words to be spoken may be spoken 80 or 90% perfectly, or they may be spoken 100% perfectly. At the very moment when Dōgen speaks, he He can express himself in 100,000 myriad expressions of the truth, but his power is so wonderful that, utilizing a bit of his power, he simply expresses the truth in the state of 80 or 90% of realization. Even if, for example, we would need the power of 100,000 myriads to sum up the whole universe in the 10 directions, to try may be better than not taking it up at all. A person such as Dōgen, then, who can summon up the whole universe with the power of one, must be beyond ordinary power. The meaning of the present 80 or 90% of realization is like this. Nevertheless, people understand when they hear the Buddhist patriarch's words, your expression of the truth is just 80 or 90% of realization, that expressions of the truth can be 100% of realization, and so an expression of the truth which does not reach that level is called 80 or 90% of realization. If the Buddha Dharma were like that, it could never have reached the present day. We must learn through experience that the said 80 or 90% of realization is like saying hundreds of thousands, or like saying limitless abundance. Dōgen has said already 80 or 90% of realization, and we have seen that he means we must not be restricted to 8s and 9s. It seems on the surface to be saying 8 or 9 out of 10 or 80 or 90%. But Master Dōgen understood Hakujo not as an abstract number expressing relative evaluation, but as a representative of reality which does not conform to the ideal. Let's clear that up. Oh, excuse me again. Stories of the Buddhist patriarchs are studied like this. When Dōgen says, I am just like this, how about you, brother? He speaks about being just like this, because he wants to make Dōgen himself speak words that Dōgen has called expression of 80 or 90% of realization. This being just like this is not retaining any new sign or old trace. At the same time, it is arms being long and sleeves being short. The words I have just spoken are imperfect in expression, but I will leave them as they are, is not the meaning of I am just like this. Dōgen says, the thoroughly realized body is hands and eyes. These words do not mean that hands and eyes, as hands and eyes each existing independently, are a thoroughly realized body. The thoroughly realized body as hands and eyes is expressed, the thoroughly realized body is hands and eyes. So Dōgen also is not saying that the body is the same as hands and eyes. Using limitlessly abundant hands and eyes describes the limitless abundance of using hands and eyes, using hands and using eyes, in which state hands and eyes are inevitably like the thoroughly realized body as hands and eyes. If someone were to ask, whatever is he doing by using limitlessly abundant bodies and minds, there might be an answer, the expression of the truth that thoroughly realized body is the doing of whatever. Furthermore, it is not true that comparing Dōgen's whole and Dōgen's thoroughly realized, one is perfect in expression and the other is imperfect in expression. Dōgen's whole and Dōgen's thoroughly realized are both beyond relative comparisons. Rather, it may simply be that in the limitlessly abundant hands and eyes of each respective master, such words are present. So the Kannon of which the old one Shakyamuni speaks is only 1,000 hands and eyes, or 12 faces, or 33 bodies, or 84,000. The Kannon of Dōgen and Dōgen is limitlessly abundant hands and eyes, though it is beyond discussion of abundance and scarcity. When they learn in experience Dōgen and Dōgen's Kannon of limitlessly abundant hands and eyes, all the Buddhas realize Kannon Samadhi as 80 or 90% realization. Shōbōgenzō Kannon preached to the assembly on the 25th day of the 4th lunar month in the 3rd year of Ninji, 1242. But it's not quite over. Now, since the Buddha Dharma came from the West, many Buddhist patriarchs have spoken of Kannon, but they have not equalled Ungan and Dōgen. Therefore, I have spoken of only this latter Kannon. In teaching of Great Master Yoko Shinkaku, there are the words, "The state of not seeing a single Dharma is called the Tathagata," or it can be called the Bodhisattva free in reflection. This is verification that the Tathagata and Kannon simultaneously manifest this body, and that they are not separate bodies. There is the encounter between Myoku and Rinzai concerning true hands and eyes. It is one hand and one eye among the limitlessly abundant. In the teaching of Unmon, there is the Kannon who, on seeing sights, clarifies the mind, and on hearing sounds, realizes the truth. What sound or sight could be other than the Bodhisattva, regarder of the sounds of the world, seeing and hearing? In the teaching of Hyokujo, there is Kannon's gate of entry into truth. In the orders of the Shuramgama, there is the Kannon of all-pervading realization. In orders of the flower of Dharma, there is the Kannon who is universally manifest on all sides. All these are in the same state as Buddha, and are in the same state as mountains, rivers, and the earth. At the same time, they are just one or two instances of limitlessly abundant hands and eyes. That's the end of chapter 33. Thank you for listening.